Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in his address to the nation, had announced that his government would take over the supply of COVID-19 vaccines. Essentially, what had been left to the states would now be under the center. Now, we know the vaccination drive has been patchy, has been laggard. How can this change, which is effective from today, make a difference? Will it be easier for you to find a slot and to be able to go and take your shot? Avantika Ghosh, who leads our COVID coverage, is with me today in Government Matters to help us find these answers. Please do start sending in your questions for her. Avantika, I just saw your tweet about the numbers today with this new, policy change. So can you just tell us that first?
Yeah, so an update has just come in from the Ministry of Health, which says that till now, 47 lakh vaccine doses have been administered. So clearly we are heading for some kind of a record today, because the earlier high, if I remember correctly, was 43 lakh for the entire day. And this is like, I would say this is just about half the day gone now.
Right.
A little more than half. So, some very high numbers coming up. And just before this started, I was actually looking at CoWIN to see if slots are available. Right now, I could see 70 in my own pin code, not even like random places, in my own pin code where I am. There were 77 slots of Covaxin second dose in one center and 139 in another center. And 2 weeks ago, when I had to get my second shot, I had actually spent a whole week trying to get a slot.
Right.
And it was a nightmare, really. So clearly, availability has improved. And this is not probably because of the change in vaccine procurement process, but because in general, vaccine availability has improved. So what was happening is that vaccines were taking a little bit of time to come in. I'm sorry. And so far, the limiting factor essentially has been the number of vaccine doses available. But that seems to be easing right now. So for example, in May, I was just looking up, in all of May, we had done about 6 crore vaccinations. Whereas in April, it was over 9 crore. And that is because till April, we also had the stockpiles that the companies had got. Those stockpiles were also being used in the national program. But after April, when that stockpile was exhausted, that's when the problems, and then again, all of this procurement business happened, and states were fighting each other, states were fighting the center, a lot of to and fro happening. But see, I was talking to some people over the weekend, and I'm made to understand that this month, about 10 crore vaccine doses are expected. Which means we'll be hitting the April kind of figure again. Already the daily numbers are looking really up. I mean, today's number is an exception, but otherwise also we have been doing 30-40 lakh a day intermittently. So, so I think more than the procurement per se, it's a matter of availability and the fact that there's a bit of financial angle to this, because states were earlier paying a lot more than the center. But now I'm told the center would continue to procure at least the present lot at the earlier rates. And also another thing is that even earlier, at no point of time was vaccination not free unless you chose to go to a private facility. Because whether state governments were giving you the vaccine or the center was giving you the vaccine, the fact of the matter is that throughout the time that vaccines have been available in India, in a government hospital or a government center, vaccines have always been free. Now so essentially for the person on the, who's actually getting the vaccine slot, it is not, it doesn't make that much of a difference. The financial commitment, whether that comes from the center or the state, it doesn't make much difference. Just that this slot availability seems to have eased, but that this today's slot availability easing means this was starting to happen even before the procurement change happened.
Right. So, Avantika, on that note, if you can just break down what this procurement change really means, if you can explain to our viewers what this new policy is and how it is different from what was being practiced till now.
Right. So, in May, what was happening is that of all vaccines that are manufactured in India. So whatever I'm going to say about the procurement policy applies only for vaccines manufactured in India, not for imported vaccines. That's the first point. So in May, what was happening is 50% of all vaccines manufactured in India were being procured by the government of India, who were giving it free of cost for vaccinations in the 45 plus age group. The other 50%, half, so 25% was going to state governments and 25% to private hospitals. Now, state governments, even if 25% was going to state governments were not free to procure as much as they wanted, because the center had set quotas based on the eligible population of each state, based on which, so in a given month, one company could only give X number of doses to a state government based on the eligible population. It's not like a state government could just procure as much as it wanted. That was the May system. And also, an important thing is, in May, the 25% that private hospitals were procuring, there was no control in the pricing. So, people were charging sometimes as high as 1,800 rupees, 2,000 rupees even for one shot. Now, the procurement policy change that comes in from today means that 75% of all vaccines manufactured in India will be procured by the government of India, and it will be supplied to the states to be given free of cost to all adults. So earlier, what was applicable only for the 45 plus age group is now for everybody. Earlier, 45 plus was paid for by the government of India, 18 to 44 by state governments. Now 18 to whatever age,
for all adults.
All adults is paid for by the government of India. Private hospitals will procure the other 25%. But this time there are some limits to how much they can charge. So for example, Covishield, the maximum price that a private hospital can charge for one dose is rupees 780.
Right.
For Covaxin, the maximum price that they can charge is 1,410. And for Sputnik, maximum price that they can charge is 1,145. So this is a maximum service charge of 150 per dose over and above the vaccine cost. Now, Sputnik V is currently only available in private hospitals because right now it's not being manufactured in India. These whatever Sputnik we have in the country right now are imported doses. So this Sputnik manufacturing is expected to start. I mean, India manufactured vaccines are expected to be available sometime in July, August. So that's when that is also going to be a part of the national program, because as per the policy, the government of India will procure only vaccines manufactured in India and not imported ones.
Okay, all right. So let's take this question from Ashish Singh. It's come on Twitter. It's clear from the COVID dashboard that vaccination is indeed ramping up, and I assume for today it may cross the 50 lakh mark. But what's the status of supply? Assuming states are indeed able to cross daily 1 crore across India soon, will it create a strain on the supply side?
I don't really see the supply side supporting the 1 crore per day target anytime soon, because the government of India, the projections that the government of India submitted in April, in the April or May in the Supreme Court, they are only looking at about 12 crore vaccine doses from July onwards. Now, even if that's doubled, you still don't do 1 crore vaccinations per day. So I think that's a bit of a sort of ambitious target. Yeah. And as for the 216 crore vaccines that the government of India claims will be available between July and August, I actually have zero idea where that number came from, because that takes into account everything: Pfizer, Moderna, biologically, everybody, Zydus. So, and none of these are as yet available. We are, in the second half of June. We have not taken a call on the indemnity thing for Pfizer and Moderna. So I think we are setting like very high targets, something like the 6-week target that Dr. Balram Bhargav had set in July last year for the COVID vaccine. I don't think 1 crore vaccinations are going to happen in the next couple of months at least.
Okay, so Ashish has another question. He says another side is vaccine hesitancy, except for some major cities. Most places I see there are vaccines available. Not the case 2-3 weeks back, but now. But it appears people are not booking, especially the 45 plus age group. What's your take and how to tackle this?
Yes, and this is, it's very interesting because um, when vaccines were not available, numbers, the daily cases were going up. We hit 4.14 lakh per day, and today it's 53,000. I'm not saying 53,000 is a small figure, but in comparison, it looks like a very tiny figure.
It's all relative.
Yeah, that's all relative. So the fear is waning. And the fear waning also means vaccine hesitancy is going to kick in because I was trying to talk to somebody yesterday and asked her, did you take the vaccine? And she said, no, people are saying you'll get the disease if you take the vaccine. And then she turned back and said, have you taken it? I said, yes, I have. So, but she was not convinced. There's a lot of sort of rumors swirling, and this is in a city. It's not just that in urban centers, and people are. I mean, we are hearing stories of people jumping into the river so that they don't have to take the vaccine. It's
right. It's that drastic.
That drastic, and the level of faith I think is it's going to take. So there are some meetings that are happening with Rotary. Dr. Paul is meeting Rotary people because Rotary, remember, played a very important role in the Pulse Polio campaign.
Right.
Pulse Polio is one of our most successful vaccination campaigns because we managed to eliminate the disease and we managed to rope in every possible stakeholder, get religious leaders to talk to people, and basically just hit out at vaccine hesitancy in every possible way. And that's probably the kind of model we'll have to look at on vaccine hesitancy. And the government is aware of that. So talks have already begun along those lines. Something is also the Minority Affairs Ministry has started a campaign on vaccine hesitancy to encourage people to take vaccines. So there are lots of things happening. It will take a while to come together, but there is the consciousness is certainly there that we are looking at vaccine hesitancy now.
Right. The only difference, Avantika, I suppose, is how infectious COVID is. So the kind of time that we have to ensure everybody gets the jab is very, very limited. So the time frame is far more urgent, immediate.
That's right. However, I've also been talking to a lot of doctors, and it's very interesting that many of them seem to think that we will not get a third wave, and will not. And they say that because remember, the government of India had said we have an infection fatality rate of this much, and when you calculate from there, you have like 63 crore infections in India. That is half the population. If that's the kind of infection that has happened, and this is an official government of India figure, if that's the kind of infection rates that has happened, except for one dramatically furious mutant coming in, maybe we're not looking at that sort of a third wave, but that is again ambitious.
Yeah, I mean, that's let's just hope for the best, but prepare for the worst, as they say, as the cliche goes. Tanveer Panjwani, will the government give only Covishield and Covaxin as free, or will it include Sputnik and other vaccines in the free program?
Yeah, right now it's just those two, but Sputnik is going to come into the national program. I'm hoping sometime in July, August, as in when the Indian batches start coming in. Also, any other vaccine. So, for example, biological E, Zydus, biological E, government has already made an upfront advance payment for 30 crore doses. Biological E will certainly be in the national program. Zydus is again an indigenous vaccine, so that should be as and when it is available. Both of these, as and when they're available, would be in the national program. Actually, Pfizer and Moderna, about which there's so much interest, they don't have any tie-ups right now of manufacturing in India. So even if they get the necessary clearances and indemnity and whatever else they're asking for, those probably will not be a part of the national program, but others, there are several others lined up.
All right. Okay, Shantanu, what is stopping the government from procuring large supplies of foreign vaccines lying in excess in other countries, give emergency use authorization, and start putting it in arms?
I think large doses are not really available. It's a negotiation. Government is trying to get some from the US, but it's it is the impression that has gone out that these vaccine companies have lots of doses that India can buy up. is not correct. They also have constraints apart from whatever legal protections they are seeking. They don't really have that many vaccine doses. These, because see, India has a basic problem that we started late. And because we started late, people had, other countries had bought up vaccine doses. Now to negotiate with them and get some of that for our people, it's a process. It's happening, but it's obviously dependent on how much that country feels like giving you,
Right.
because it had the first movers advantage. We lost that advantage because we somehow sat on vaccine procurement for a very long time.
All right. Okay. I'll take this last question from Madhvi. As the predictions of the third wave, there are predictions of the third wave. Will most of the Indians get vaccinated in time? What is your view? Well, Avantika's view is that hopefully a third wave won't
But if there is a third
arrive.
wave here, I don't really see vaccinations actually happening. Even in the 18 plus age group, even if we leave alone kids, I don't see even that being completed. If we are looking at a third wave anytime this year, and if we are looking at a third wave sometime in September, I don't know. I mean, God save us.
Right. All right. So, Avantika, bringing us some good news of vaccination ramping up, looking much better, figures going up, but also giving us some not so good news that it doesn't seem like all eligible people would be vaccinated if a third wave were to hit anytime later this year. Thank you, Avantika, for explaining the new policy change, the procurement policy that is now going to be in place for COVID-19 vaccines. Thank you to our viewers for watching Government Matters and for sending in their questions. Keep subscribing to our